Day one of early voting. In the next few days, we are lined up with candidates who, want to give their final pitch to you, the voters out there. Many of you will be heading to the polls today or maybe throughout the week and next week, or you might just be waiting. See what some of these candidates have to say, and you never know when there's going to be a breaking news item about any of those candidates. And some people waiting for what happens nationally with the Republican primary, which is very competitive still. Very competitive. Lawsuits being threatened, all kinds of weird things happening in that race. Joining me in studio to talk about his campaign for HD 84, Jim Landtroop. Welcome back.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming in. You've been doing a lot of block walking, a lot of talking.
Yes.
Are you glad it's starting to wrap up, or do you really enjoy getting out there and block walking and talking to people?
Yes. I am glad that it's wrapping up, but I love getting out there and walking and talking to people. That's what it's about, being part of the community, talking to the people. I think people are frustrated because a lot of times politicians, once they get elected, they kind of disappear out of the community or at least away from the constituents. And so I love that part of it. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. But I think I and everybody else is probably glad that it's coming to an end, especially once I think South Carolina's over. Then the presidential race is going to, I think, hit Texas really hard.
Yeah.
So people are really going to be glad that it's coming to an end here in a few days.
Yeah. Let's talk about being, I guess, visible out here. And that's something that at least with the Texas 19 race, you hear a lot of. Have you heard from people who are wanting more visibility from state representatives?
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you do that?
I think one of the things you can do is, have town hall meetings. You can give opportunity at some point. Sometimes the people are going to have to take advantage of that opportunity.
Right.
But I think, every election, if the people honor me with their vote, I'm going to walk, even if I'm unopposed, I'm still going to knock on doors and walk blocks because I think that's important, being in touch with the people.
Everyone who lives in HD 84 they've received numerous mailers from both campaigns, and some of the things that are brought up. Want to get your opinion on, I guess your feedback on. One of the questions that has been raised in this race is if we get rid of seniority in this area. And get rid of the person you're challenging, then it could possibly impact Texas Tech and the city of Lubbock in a negative way. I'm assuming you think that's wrong, and you
Absolutely.
would say that's wrong. How do you fight that image, and how do you respond to that? And what do you do to help protect Texas Tech, which is obviously a big issue out here?
Absolutely. And there are people all across West Texas that support Texas Tech. It's just not the people from Lubbock. We've got support from, Tom Craddock down in Midland, graduated from Texas Tech. And he's been there longer than anybody. Mm-hmm. So you have them. You have Charles Perry over in the Senate. And Dustin and I we're all big Texas Tech supporters. And it's not, that's an attempt, in my opinion, that's an attempt by my opponent to try to distract the voters away from his record. Because when you get down to it, we live in one of the most conservative districts in the entire nation. And I think the people deserve and want somebody who has a conservative voting record. And so when it comes down to that, then I'm the clear choice in this race. And so I think he's throwing out some of these things as a distraction, honestly. But there's, Texas Tech has been, will be very well represented.
What are some of the things that a state rep, and if elected, you can do to help boost Texas Tech when you're dealing with a lot of Longhorns and a lot of Aggies in Austin?
And it's a battle. It always is. It's a battle. But like I say, we've got people in good places that support Texas Tech. We need to continue to work. There is plenty of room in Texas for another Tier 1 university. And there's absolutely no reason and no doubt in my mind that Texas Tech's not that Tier 1 university. So getting everybody together collectively and working towards that, I think, is going to be the next thing we need to do.
Texas Tech is trying to get a veterinary school going.
Absolutely.
A&M has said we're going to try to block every attempt possible. They've got a lot of pull down in Austin. So how can you shield that from Texas Tech and help get Texas Tech where they want to go?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've had to bring people to the table. There's, again, just like Tier 1, there's plenty of room in Texas for another veterinarian school. We don't have enough veterinarians now. And so it just makes logical sense, especially where we're at in West Texas. It doesn't make sense to have it anywhere else but here. And so just bringing the people together to the table and just working. I mean, it's just, a lot of this is just like everything else. It's just hard work. And I'm committed to that. I work hard to get there, and I'm going to work hard while I'm there.
Visiting with Jim Landtroop in the race for HD 84, a big primary out here for that seat. Let's talk about, if elected, what committee, if you could wave a magic wand and say, I want to be on this committee. That's not how it happens, but
right.
if you could say, this is the committees that I want to be on, what are those committees?
The first one would have to be appropriations. That's probably the largest and, one of the most difficult committees to be on. That's the only thing constitutionally that we have to do is pass that budget. So appropriations would be my very first choice. After that, I served on the Ag Committee. In this, there are a few things that make Texas Tech and this area just really go. That's education. Small businesses, healthcare, and agriculture. I mean, we're still one of the largest, if not the largest, crop-producing county in the nation. Mm. And so agriculture still plays a big part of that. So the Agriculture Committee, I think, would still be a very important committee for this area.
If you could pass one law first time you get in, first day, you write a bill, you want to pass, what's the first law that you want to write?
Ban sanctuary cities. That's the first law. We've got to get we've got to get control of our border, and I think banning sanctuary cities, making sure we pass laws that keep our taxpayer dollars from going to people who are in our country illegally, stopping in-state tuition. I mean, all those things help when it comes to securing the border, and that's what we've got to do. I mean, that's where the focus needs to be.
And there's going to be a lot of focus, I think, as well as there should be, on sanctuary cities. The governor's already talked about that. I'll ask the same question, but in this way. What law would you want to pass that has not received a lot of attention statewide? Because we've heard about sanctuary cities, we've heard about border issues. What's something else that maybe people aren't thinking about right now that you'd like to see get done?
Well, and again, I guess this probably has some people talking about this, but still property taxes. I mean, we've got to phase those out, quite honestly. In the state of Texas, I think one of your primary rights is to own property. But in the state of Texas, you may not have a bank note, but you still don't own your property, because if you don't pay your property taxes, guess what happens? And so I think getting rid of that, and quite honestly, that may have to be done because the court may come back, this summer and say, you can't do property tax. That's unconstitutional anyway. And I know that's a big part of education funding. So if that comes back, next session is going to be busy.
Visiting with Jim Landtroop, candidate for HD 84. All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. We're visiting with Jim Landtroop in studio. He's candidate for HD 84. If you have a question, feel free to dial in 770-5790, toll-free 1-800-687-0790. Jim, the last time you were on the show, you brought up border security and how you feel you're the best for border security in this race. And you brought up an amendment, I believe it was from Tony Dale, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That you said Representative Freelow had voted against it. It would have taken, $46 million from diversity training and put it into border security, correct?
Yes, I think the amount, there's some discussion on the amount. I heard $92 million.
Okay. 92, maybe over 2 years
maybe
or
so.
something. Okay. Yeah. When we had your opponent on the show, he said that, and looking at some of the information that's out there, including from the Urban Policy Research and Analysis at UT Austin, that the Diversity Training Fund only had $2 million in it, and that it didn't have $46 or $92 million in it. So they said that there was no way that they could have gotten that $46 million out of $2 million, and that those who had asked for increased border security, that the governor was happy with it, everyone else was happy with what was passed. So let me ask you this: is he wrong in his analysis and in other analysis that are out there that there was only $2 million earmarked for that diversity training, or a little bit less than $2 million? And if there was only $2 million, how do you get $46 million out of that?
Well, if there is only 2, you can't get 46 out of 2.
Okay.
But look at the site that who was it? Something from Texas University, the
Institute for Urban Policy Research and Analysis at UT Austin.
Okay, Urban Policy and Analysis at UT Austin. I hear that, and I think, boy, that's a liberal, group that is probably all about diversity training. And probably not as concerned with border security. But whether it's $96 million, $46 million, $2 million, that money should be spent securing our border. And I noticed my opponent didn't say he didn't vote, not to move the money over into border security. So if you can argue about the amounts if you want to, but the fact is there was an opportunity to move more money into border security, and he voted against it.
How much more money should be put into border security?
As much as, we need to talk to the people down there on the border and find out, how much. I mean, I don't know a figure off the top of my head, but they do. So we need to talk to them. And the people that are on the ground that are doing it, they're the ones in the best position to know what they need. And so we need to get them to the table and ask them, what do you need? What do you need to fix this? What do you need to secure our border? And find ways to get that to them, whether it comes from, the Commission of the Arts or the film industry or diversity training. There are priorities in the state, and we spend a lot of money on non-priority items, in my opinion. Border security has to be one of the top priorities. And so we need to find out what it's going to take to do it and find the money to do it without raising taxes.
If the governor was happy with it, Colonel McGraw was happy with it, then is there a need to increase?
Is our border secure?
Well, if they're happy with it.
But the point is our border secure? I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody would say that our border is secure.
So you'd go above even what the governor wants?
Yeah. If he is not asking for enough to get the job completely done,
mm-hmm.
Then sure. I mean, let's secure our border.
So
let's quit talking about it and doing it, and let's quit saying, we got a little bit more this session, so isn't that great? Well, sure, but our border's still not secure. Why don't we stop talking and do it?
Well, how much does that cost? Because you have the presidential candidates; they're talking about it. And I don't know if we're going to leave it up to the president to do it, the next president, if it's a Republican. Ted Cruz, okay, well, then you've got you got the feds looking at it finally. They're going to be doing something on it. State of Texas is looking at doing something on it. So,
sure.
How much, do you have a figure at all of how much to spend and where do you get that money if you're going above what even the governor wants?
No, I think it's premature to come up with a figure without talking to, the only decisions you can make, they're based on the information that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So the more information you have, the better decision you can make. And so we're not in a position right now, I don't believe, even as a state, because I don't know that anybody has talked to the people down on the south, on the southern border to find out what do we need? Do we need planes? Do we need helicopters? Do we need drones? Do we need people? What does that look like? What do we need to secure the border? Because there are people that do this for a living. This is their job,
right?
To strategize and come up with ways to do this. That's not my job. My job is to help them do their job. And so we need to talk to them. And once we find out from them what exactly it is that we need, then we need to figure out a way to get it to them.
Have you gone down to the border? And if not, is that something that you would like to do?
I actually have been down there.
You have?
I have. We went down there. DPS took us up and down the Rio Grande with in their armored boats, and there was actually a point where we had to stop. And they had to send a patrol and a helicopter up ahead because something was going on down the river that they weren't sure about. It's an extremely dangerous place, and we learned a lot, more than probably what we can go in this conversation. But there's a lot of work to be done, and so we need to make sure that they have the resources to do it.
Let me ask you something that is it's been brought up in the Texas 19 race, but it has a lot to do with Texas, and that's transportation. The mayor would like to see I-27 extended down to the border eventually. Of course, it would have to happen in segments, but it would reach down to the border. Since you've been down to the border, you know how dangerous it is. Mm-hmm. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, I don't think it's going to affect border security. It's not going to affect the people coming across the border. Texas, as we continue to grow just exponentially, it seems like, we have to have the infrastructure to keep up with that. Mm-hmm. And so, part of that is roads. Part of that's water. Part of that's electricity. That's a very complicated issue. And so we do have to pay attention to those things if we want Texas to continue to, kind of, in my opinion, lead the nation. We have to have the infrastructure ready for the people that are coming here.
If a question that I received via email, and it was on top of this border, let's say, God forbid, Hillary Clinton is the next president of the United States.
Don't even say that.
I'm sorry. Jody's looking at me, too.
Don't even say that.
But let's say Hillary Clinton's president of the United States. We pretty much know that the border's not going to get secure, correct?
Not by Washington.
Okay. So does that mean it's only up to Texas at that point?
Well, it sounds like it. But that's such a – people look at the border issue, and it's there's two parts to it. There's the economic issue, and there's the safety issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it's not just one or the other. It's both. And I don't remember the figures, but it's, millions and millions of dollars are spent for things, for people who are here illegally, for benefits, whether it's they're using the healthcare system or, it is, you would not believe the amount of money that's spent on people. So it's an economic issue as well as a safety issue. And so we have to do it. If Washington's not going to do it, and I'm not even going to say her name, if she was president, and she's obviously not going to do it.
Or Bernie Sanders. We could say or Bernie.
I don't want to say him either. Okay. I'm not even.
So it would be left up to the state.
It would be, yeah.
Okay.
It has been so far.
And if that requires big tax increase,
no, we're not going to do taxes. Like I say, there's enough spending in the state on things that we don't really need to spend money on that we can move toward.
What do you
border
think
security.
We could wipe out?
Well, again, it's all about priorities, and these aren't bad things, and that's the problem with the budget. We're spending money on things that they're not bad things, mm-hmm. but in the scale of priorities, they're not at the top. And again, I mentioned the music and film industry. We subsidize that. We just subsidized building a Formula One racetrack in Austin not too long ago. We subsidize commissions on arts. We subsidize some of these things, and they're not bad things, but they're not as high on the priority scale as border security. And so we've got to get our priorities right and maybe do away with some of the things we want to do, some of the things we need. And then once we get the needs fixed, then maybe we can go back to doing some of the things we want. Visiting
with Jim Landtroop. Real quick, are there any Second Amendment issues that you think will come up in the next session? Anything that you'd like to see done?
Well, we've done open care. We've done campus care. I think campus care is going to be revisited, honestly. And so just trying to flesh out what that looks like on college campuses because we're hearing just tons of stuff about different college campuses and gun-free zones and this and that. So I think that will be revisited a little bit. But other than that, we just need to make sure that we don't go backwards, most importantly.
Do you think we have, with open carry, I've heard arguments, and you've probably seen some out there and heard some that, we're seeing a lot more 30-06 signs, a lot of obviously 30-7 signs. Do you think we've gone backwards? Do you think open carry was good?
I believe, and I have a license to carry. Mm-hmm. I personally will not open carry because I don't want the bad guys to shoot me first.
Right.
But I do support your right to open carry if that's what you want to do. So if we went backwards or not, I don't know. But I do support the Second Amendment rights very strongly and support your right to open carry if you want to.
All right. Jim Landtroop, appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Jim Landtroop running for HD 84.